Welcome everyone. Okay, so I had a lot of questions about what I was doing and using. So this is originally a reel that I made for Instagram, hence the formatting. But I thought I'd put it as a YouTube and chat through what I'm using and doing. So this is Newsprint. A few followers noticed that it looked quite fragile paper. Newsprint is really lovely and useful for various uses, such as not wanting to add too much bulk to your journals, especially with ephemera style journals. We can add a lot of bulk, so it's a nice option to not have too much bulk. The other thing, at least with the newsprint that I buy, it has a sort of very smooth finish to it compared to my copy paper. I also like using a lot of photocopy paper as well because it's very lightweight and it's wonderful for collaging and not adding a lot of bulk. But it's not great for using for instance, my fountain pens or my dip pens. The ink tends to spread. So I like newsprint for making for any sort of writing or making fake letters, although I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use a stamp anyway on this. So what I've used there was my Prima marketing, one of my Prima marketing tins, which is Pastel Dreams. And the way I'm creating this is I want, my style is sort of a pretty grunge, pretty vintage. So it has a lot of pink involved, as anyone who follows me knows. Pink, pink, pink. And so I start with pink rather than aging the paper with tea or coffee. I'm starting with a colour. And then I'm taking, is it antique linen, I think, and walnut ink, walnut stain, distress inks, which I'll be using throughout, and also the ground espresso a little bit. The antique linen is just a nice pale yellowy colour that just helps me age it up a little bit in little spots that I want to without losing the lovely pink. So I'll cut it down to the basic size. I will be distressing it further, but this gets me at least started. Walnut stain is quite dark, but I do like it. I tend to be disappointed if I use anything like vintage photo and that sort of thing. But the lighter shades I tend to use directly onto paper. But for edges, I do favour my walnut stain. So I'm just starting to, this starts to give me an idea and gives me a start by getting the edges distressed up, and then I can continue to make other choices and changes later as I go. And, I'm trying to make an old letter and make it look like an old letter. At the same time, I don't take myself or this or my junk journaling too seriously, and I don't aim for perfection. So here I'm using ground espresso. So I don't use black in my work very much at all, although I will use it for stamping. But I do like close to black colours when I want that higher contrast. I'm just placing another bit of collage paper there because as it's been a letter, the writing, the script shouldn't go all the way to the edges. I wanted to stop, so I've just placed that there to make it look more like a letter. And I'm leaving a space at the top for the date, but then I realised that I've stamped it upside down, which is fine. This is the one that I did just to show on Instagram. I had already done another one that I did it the right way up, but it doesn't matter. You can't really tell once you stick it into your journal. It just depends how much of a perfectionist you are, but I'm not. I used to be, and I'm quite happily a recovering perfectionist now. So as I was saying, I don't want to make this perfect. I like it to look like an old letter, but I don't have it. I'm not trying to make an actual antique document that's going to pass. Although I did fool my husband. I did fool my husband when I showed it to him. I hadn't meant to. I only wanted to show him what I made, but I started with, I found an old letter, and then he was looking at it and he was trying to decipher what it said, so that's funny. So now that I've printed a date and, the script, I can start to add the colours. So I'm just starting to add the colours. So I'm just going to start with a bit of pink, and then I'm going to add the colours. So now that I've printed a date and, the script, I can start to add the colours. So now that I've printed a date and Now all the stamping's done, I'm just now starting to distress it more. I like the idea of ripping the end of the date so you don't quite know what year it was. And the stamping goes all the way to the bottom of the letter, so then I rip the bottom bit. So what's happened is, the story behind it is that we've lost it. We've lost the bottom of the letter. So you can see I'm sort of doing a rolling sort of technique, really gently rolling. I want the paper to curl like old paper tends to do when moisture gets to it, and the edges curl rather than folding. So I don't want to do this roughly and it fold. I really like those curling edges. And a few rips and tears here and there. This is a love letter, and it's a love letter that's been in a pocket, it's gone in and out of envelopes, the envelope has been lost, so it's seen some action. And I just wanted to make a few little extra inky splotches, the way ink spreads. This stamp, I realise, is it's a cleaner script. I just wanted to make it a little bit more inky. Not too much, just a little touch. You can probably barely tell on the video. So when you have really fragile paper, or most paper anyway, it's quite thin, and then I just place a card on the back of it, on the edge, and that helps ink up the edges. The great thing about making grungy and old things is that the handling of it as you're stamping and mostly as you're distressing, is that you're getting creases in there, and it's all fine. I love that because I don't like to over fuss, and I will tend to if I had something that I was trying not to crease, it just wouldn't work. So this suits this suits me very well, grungy stuff. So it's getting a little bit of wear and tear as you're working with it, which is great. So I'm just using what's left over on the blender there, just to add a little bit more of these browns, making sure there's no really strong watercolory pop of paint. Just a little more distress, a little more creasing, not overdoing it. So now I'm going to fold it as a letter would have been, and if you notice old letters, they've been opened and folded, so their creases are actually really, really tight, which is what I'm doing here. And I love this idea of this letter that we don't quite know who it's from, but the wonderful words of love still linger on, still there, because it's not about the person, it's about the words. So I'm just folding back because creases tend to get aged. It's something I've noticed with old letters. So it's just a little extra touch of distressing, inking up the folds. I think I did it probably a little too dark, but that's fine. Like I said, I'm not trying to make this perfect. And possibly a little bit more authentic would have been to make a tear along the edge of where one of the creases are, because that becomes really fragile where folds are made in paper. So one of the tears down on the side where there's a crease, if you wanted to be that little extra authentic. So this is absolutely my style, pink and brown. When it comes to vintage, I just absolutely adore these two colours together. A nice coffee brown and soft muted pinks. Oh, love it. So just adding little finishing touches, making sure the edges and everything's looking as I want, and doing that actually helps curl the paper a little bit. Sort of the wetness of the ink helps you colour again. So I'm really happy with that, how that's looking. It's just a fun little, 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes, and I've got a little page I'm just adding here to my boho vintage journal, having to think how I want it, and I thought, I don't want it all, I want to see it, I want to see the script, so popping it in like that. So I hope this has helped. I'll see if I can put some of the supplies in the description. Thanks for being here. Bye.